everyone, it's Mimi and Weezes.
Hey guys, what's good?
We're finally back.
Your voice cracked. We're finally back. We're here to tell you guys about Jodi Arias and her vicious crimes against humanity.
We're finally back with another American Murders episode. We're going to cover Jodi Arias in this episode because it's from the place we moved from, right? So that's kind of how we heard about it in the first place, because we lived in Goodyear, Arizona. It was a wild ride.
She was a local legend.
Kinda, like, you know, there's all those trials on TV. She was one of them. And she's currently serving a life sentence at Perryville Prison in Goodyear, Arizona. Let's tell the story, dude.
Let it rip.
We'll talk about, I don't even want to call this the episode on Jodi Arias, really. I want to call it the murder of Travis Alexander, because that is actually the main point of the story, you know?
Okay.
So we'll start from the beginning. On June 4th, 2008, Travis Alexander, he was killed at his home in Mesa, Arizona. It's about 45 minutes-ish from Goodyear, where she's in prison right now. It was all over the news. There was multiple stab wounds, a gunshot, he had his throat slit, there was all kinds of stuff. When the police were called, they ruled it a homicide almost immediately, you know. When the police got the 911 call, of course, everyone was like, it's got to be Jodi. So Jodi was his ex-girlfriend. She ended up being charged with the murder in 2013. So Travis, he had a scheduled trip to Cancun, Mexico. And so he was planning that with all his friends. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're kind of just not hearing from him, which is not like him at all. He had a conference call for work scheduled that same night, June 4th, 2008 at 7 p.m. On June 9th, keep in mind, that's days in between, dude. That's a lot of days.
Yeah.
So on June 9th, 2008, everyone was like, all right, this is getting real sus, because he's never missed his work. He's always texting, answering his phone. What's going on? So people from his job, they roll up to his house, and his roommates are like, oh, well, he's supposed to be, like, out of town, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know why he's not texting you back. We haven't heard from him. They go upstairs, and they're like, hey, dude, well, his bedroom door is locked. One other thing that I want to add really quick is that one of the people who went to check to see where he was or what was going on was a woman named Mimi Hall, which is...
Miranda. No.
Yeah, Mimi. Which is a girl that he had recently been seeing, who he was taking on the trip to Cancun with him, right? So it kind of...
Because for the trip, he had a +1, and let's just say Jodi Arias thought she was the +1, but it was actually going to be Mimi.
Well, he had actually invited Jodi on the trip earlier in the year.
Ooh.
But then he was like, never mind. You ain't coming, you crazy. So then he took Mimi instead. So him and Mimi were getting close, right? She's about to go on a cool trip to Cancun. Anyways, they go and find him. Well, they go to his house anyways. The roommates, like I said, say, oh, he's gone, I don't know. They search around. They find the key to his master bedroom, dude, to Travis's room. When they open the door, there was a really bad smell, obviously. And the authorities say that you could smell the nasty smell from, like, downstairs, but I guess they just didn't notice for some reason.
His roommates were like, oh, man, it smells like a rotting carcass in the hall.
So, anyways,
stupid joke, dude.
The police said that they could smell it from downstairs, but who knows? We'll see what they say later, right? So when they open the bedroom door, guys, they see immediately, like, large pools of blood in the hallway leading to the master bathroom that was in his room. When they got into the master bathroom, they obviously knew it wasn't going to be a good scene, but he was found deceased in the shower. There was blood everywhere. He was nude. It was just a horrific thing for your friends to have to find. So they immediately call 911. And when they call 911, that's when the people are like, we think it has to be his ex-girlfriend, Jodi. She's been kind of a stalker. She hacked into his Facebook account.
She broke into the house one time.
Mm-hmm. She slashed his tires because she had found out he was dating someone else. There was a younger Mormon girl that he had met. I don't know if she was from his church or if they met online or where from, because he was Mormon. They met and were doing fun things together, going on dates and stuff. So she slashed his tires. She confronted this girl at one point, showed up at her house. She was just doing some, like, really wild things that are obviously make her number one suspect, right?
Obviously.
So, on May 28th, 2008, this is just, a couple days before, a burglary occurred at her grandparents' house, with whom she was living with, guys, in California at the time. She wasn't living in Arizona anymore. She had moved back to California. A .25 caliber gun and some other things were taken from her grandparents' house. The grandparents' gun was never recovered. So the prosecution in court argued that the burglary was just completely staged by Jodi so that she could steal the gun and then use it to shoot Travis later. Which is the most obvious thing, right?
Yeah, she said it. How do I say? She planned ahead. She had it planned ahead, calculated, and it seemed like
it was premeditated.
Premeditated, yeah.
Yeah. Well, several days, I don't know how many, before the trip, Jodi had repeatedly reached out to one of her ex-boyfriends named Daryl. She kept asking him if she could borrow the gas cans that he had. So she borrowed 2 5-gallon gas cans for her trip to Arizona that she was going on, is what she said. So the cans were never returned to Daryl, obviously. But the receipts that they presented at trial showed that she bought a 3rd 5-gallon gas can. Some sunblock, face wash, and I think that was it. But from a Walmart in California still. And that was on June 3rd. Just one day before the murder, right?
Suspicious.
That evening, at a gas station in California, she bought 8.3 gallons of gasoline with her MasterCard. And 4 minutes later, she purchased 9.5 gallons with cash. So it just keeps getting weird because it's like, why is she just buying gallons and gallons of gas, right? The MasterCard was used again on June 6th. This was in Salt Lake City, Utah. And then again, she used it in Nevada twice. 2 different gas stations. So it was like a road trip, She hit those gas stations up along the way. So after Travis's body was discovered, after the death but before his body was discovered, Jodi continued to call him. So he had already been deceased, and she's just blowing up his phone, and she's leaving him a ton of voicemails, dude. So it was said later in the trial that she had accessed his voicemails and listened to some of the things.
She played the card where I'm gonna pretend I'm gonna erase myself as a suspect real quick.
Yeah. So she had left him voicemails saying oh, I miss you, I love you, please forgive me. Yeah, glad we're still friends, that kind of thing.
Damn.
After he had already passed.
That'd be the type of stuff I would do, bro.
Well, she was trying to make it look like she wasn't a suspect, but
see, now I know I would have given myself away.
You would have, right there. Right then and there, dude. Anyway, she said that Travis had originally planned to come visit her in May or something like that of 2008. So just the previous month, right? Obviously, I don't think that's the case. So on June 2nd, 2008, this is 2 days before the murder, Jodi rented a white Ford Focus in Redding, California. This is about 100 miles south of where she was living. So she went out of her way to get this car, right?
Yes.
She rented it from Budget Rent-A-Car, and she had told the staff there that she would only be driving the car locally. But when the car returned on June 7th, it had been driven 2,800 miles, dude.
Ooh, that's a lot.
For
a weekend, that's a lot. That's
a lot of miles. That's more than it is to drive to Arizona. Times 3 or something crazy.
For real, dude?
Yeah, so, I don't know. It was also missing all of its floor mats. There were stains on the seats that they say looked like Kool-Aid. And the car was cleaned before police were able to examine it, though. Do a thorough exam.
Took it to one of those people you see on Facebook, you don't say nothing, I don't say nothing. And then they just clean the car.
Well,
I'm one of those people, hit me up. No, I'm just kidding.
I had read on, I don't know what link it was, but when I was reading some articles, that they had originally given her a red, I think she had a red car, but they had given her different cars before, and then she kept asking them to switch it until they gave her an inconspicuous looking vehicle. Yeah, she really set this up for herself, dude. Anyways.
She's like, give me a black car with blacked out windows and black rims.
Basically. That's what she was doing.
And detachable license plate.
She did detach the license plate. Ooh. No, she took the license plate off.
Damn.
She switched it out. And so that was part of the investigation, too. So anyways, back to the story. A .25 caliber round was located near one of the sinks in the master bathroom of Travis's house. Remember what kind of gun was stolen from her grandparents? Yeah, .25 caliber, dude.
Wow, what a coincidence.
And then Travis's damaged camera, it was a digital camera, it was found in the washing machine downstairs in Travis's house. Things had been deleted off of it, and the camera was new before that. But Detective Flores, he's one of the guys, he had asked Jodi Arias at one point, hey, like, why would someone want to damage this camera? You know? And guess what? We found out why. So even though the images were deleted, they did recover them, right? The police did. Yeah. They found pictures of not only Travis, but also Jodi Arias in sexually suggestive poses, let's just say.
Yeah.
Showing some stuff, doing some stuff. And that was at 1:40 p.m. on June 4th, 2008, the day of the murder, because there was timestamps on the photos, right? The last photo of Travis Alexander alive and in the shower was taken at 5:29 p.m. on June 4th. Moments after that, the images on the camera were of a person who obviously they believe is Alexander, profusely bleeding on the floor, dude.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. In some of the photos, there was like a foot or something like that was like a woman's foot, and that's how they eventually like placed her at the scene. Is they were like, whose foot was that then?
Yeah.
You know.
And
so
they also like be like, where is this woman?
Yeah.
Like, she kind of gave herself away being in the picture.
Yes. Exactly. Like, that's why she tried to delete it all, and then she ran it through the washing machine, because she, like, put it in there trying to break it.
I mean, why didn't she just take the memory card? I just, like...
Don't know. I think
she
was just dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A little bit.
Well, I mean, she obviously murdered someone, so, yeah. A bloody palm print was located in the bathroom hallway, which, when they did the DNA test, dude, not only was it Alexander's DNA, but it was Arias' too.
Oh, my God, dude. So she murdered this guy, right? But you know how there's always... Obviously, he fought back. So she had, let's say, a bleeding hand from using the knife. And the blood was there, too.
Yep.
So it's like, who else could it be?
Exactly. And she insisted. She was like, nope, not me, dude.
It was me.
So, at the point that they found her DNA, she was still insisting that she hadn't seen him since April of that year, dude. And it's like, okay, well, can you explain why you're in these photos from the day that he was killed? And why your DNA is in the blood and all over the place. And she's like, it wasn't me.
It was my twin Arias Jodi, dude.
Yeah, that's how she was acting, literally. She was like, well, I just don't know what could have happened. So then, this guy Ryan and other people. Ryan was one of these guys that she was apparently hooking up with. So after the murder, she drove to Utah, right? I told you about the gas receipts.
Yeah.
Just to, like, make out with this guy and hook up with this guy named Ryan. So some of the people who met her in Utah after the killing, indicated that she did have bandages on her hands. And she had long sleeves on, too. And they said it was sus that she had long sleeves because it was super duper hot. Like, it was June in Utah, dude.
Oh, man. It was bacon.
So, yeah. She told different stories to all the people, you know, about how she got the cuts, blah, blah, blah. Then she told Ryan that she got injuries on her hands while working at Margaritaville. And in the trial, it was proven that no such restaurant existed.
So she just made it up and people ate it up?
Mm-hmm. It didn't exist now, and it never did in the area she was saying. She tried to say, like, oh, well, I was at work, and they were like, okay, let's check your records. And they were like, so this place is not real? So then, on June 5th, 2008, a police officer pulled Jodi Arias over while she was driving that rented vehicle. She was driving to Utah to meet Ryan at the time.
Okay.
The front license plate of the car was missing, and the rear license plate was upside down, Jesus. This is what I was telling you earlier. I was like, I remember there was something with the license plate.
Okay.
But
so she did tamper with it.
Mm-hmm. She said that some kids at Starbucks played a prank on her, and they were just flipping license plates around and blah, blah, blah. The officer was like, I'm going to go ahead and help you fix this, and I'm not going to give you a ticket. I'll just help you. And he just fell for it, dude.
Damn, bro. He fell for that pretty smile, I
guess. Well, on July 9th, 2008, she was indicted by the grand jury on first-degree murder, and they arrested her at her grandparents' home, but not until July 15th, 2008.
Imagine they just kept on going, and the grandparents were like, she's not home.
That people would do that.
Later? And the police are like, rats, we'll get her again tomorrow.
Yeah, people will. She ended up getting extradited from California back to Arizona in September, just later that year. And then she said that she wasn't guilty. She went to trial. She pled not guilty for murder. You know, she said, I didn't do it. She gave 3 different accounts of her whereabouts. So she just kept making things even more confusing. She told the police originally that she had not been in the home of Alexander at the time of his death. She later told police that she was there, but that 2 intruders had broken into Travis's house and then murdered him and attacked her. Then she finally, the very end of the trial, said, okay, fine, it was me, but it was self-defense. Like, he was abusive, and I have PTSD, and I'm suffering from, I'm a domestic violence survivor. Like, that's what she's trying to play.
I'm just a young girl of,
yes.
How old is she? No.
I don't even remember how old she is, dude.
She's of 23.
Yeah, so I don't know. But, like, she tried to pull that card right after. That's crazy, right?
It's like not taking responsibility for what you did.
Yeah.
It's like the number one thing for these people. Like, murderers.
My question is, what the heck did she think was going to happen? Like, there was all this evidence left behind. She was obviously there. As soon as the camera was found and the photos were recovered, she should have been like, I did it.
Right.
But instead,
I
she
think
was
she
like,
would have gotten an
what?
easier sentence than fighting it out, thinking she was going to outsmart the system.
Yeah, like, they found the literal photos with timestamps and stuff. She was in them, naked, and then they were like, and then she still said, that's weird.
She was like, that wasn't me.
Yeah. And it made no sense. One of the crazier parts of the whole thing, I don't want to say crazy, I know that people don't like that word anymore, but one of the most wild parts of the whole thing...
Disturbing.
Disturbing, yeah, this is really disturbing, actually. Is that in the interrogation room, when they have her in there, there's footage of it, right?
Yeah.
She is just doing some weird things. Like, if you were being accused of murder, you'd be, like, upset and... if you didn't do it, right?
I'd be, even if I did do it, right, let's just say, I'd be crying. I'd be, denying it. I wouldn't be calm, relaxed, acting like nothing's happening.
Yeah. And that's what she was doing. She was in there alone for quite a while, and they have a video of her, like, sitting on the floor, and she's, like, flipping her hair around on the floor, and then she's, at one point, was doing a handstand on the wall. Just for, like, a while, just chilling. And then there's a video of her. It's in this exact same video, so...
Yeah.
After her handstand, she sits down. And then it's just dead silent in there. And she just starts laughing to herself, dude.
She starts having, like, a... I don't know. I was manic, it was too much. But she starts, like, breaking down, like, mentally. Because she starts talking to herself and then responding to herself. And then apart from that, she started singing gospel music. She just started going off.
Yeah. And it was just really a crazy thing to see and watch, like, happen in real time.
And she always denied being, that she didn't do it. And even in her moments, like, I know she didn't care about what she did. Because when the cops came in telling her, like, let's go, we're going to cuff you, and, you're guilty. She's like, can I do my makeup,
Isn't that insane?
She's getting arrested for murder, and she's only thinking about how am I going to look on my picture.
Well, and the crazy part is, so when they first met, the two of them,
yeah,
when Travis and Jodi first met, so they actually met in September of 2006 at a business convention in Las Vegas, Nevada. The two, they became friends, like, right away. And then in November of that year, that's when Jodi got baptized into the Mormon faith because Travis was Mormon and it was really important to him, right?
Yes.
Several months after, they were obviously dating. But in the summer of 2007 is when the problem started. They broke up, and he started dating other women. Then it eventually led to this. So that's kind of how everything got started and how they met.
So basically, what he wanted out of his relationship is he wanted a Mormon girl, right? That was going to fit into his version of whatever his future wanted to be.
Yeah.
And Jodi wasn't the person you should have been messing with in the first place.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem here, is that the other reason that they started having arguments is because they were having sex, and he's Mormon, so that's, like, extremely not okay, if he actually wanted to follow his faith. And so that's why she was like, well, I'll just transition. Like, we'll get married, we'll do all this stuff. Then...
He was like, no, it's late. No.
Yeah, as soon as things started to get real, he was like, no, I do not like this. Like, she's kind of wild, Well, we'll go back to the trial for a minute, because remember this all happened in 2008. The trial itself did not start till 2013.
Ooh.
So
a couple years later.
This happens a lot in these big trials. Is there's a lot of years in between for investigating and whatever, and just backed up cases, I guess. Well, I'll start with the whole guilt phase that she had. Okay. I say that like it's a small story, but it's gonna take me 20 minutes to tell you everything. So in an opening statement on January 2nd, 2013. Prosecutor, his name was Juan Martinez.
Yeah.
He sought the death penalty, bro.
Ooh.
He wanted her to, if she did get the death penalty, she would have been the fourth woman in Arizona to get the death penalty, or on death row at the time, I guess. So she was represented by an appointed counsel who, I cannot pronounce his last name or whatever. It's Nurmi, and I know that's wrong, but that's how I have to say it. And Jennifer Wilmot. They said that Alexander's death was justifiable because it was self-defense.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and we've talked about this in some of the other cases, is having to represent someone who's guilty and having to lie and be like, no, it was self-defense, you know. She was just protecting herself, but then knowing the truth. If they did. I mean, it would be hard. Anyways, so a man that Jodi had visited when she was in Utah on June 5th, she had told him that she cut her hands on the glass while working at Margaritaville. That's right. That's what it was. A detective testified in court against her that, like, okay, that didn't exist, which I told you guys earlier, right? At the time, she was working at this place called Casa Ramos. Later, she testified that she had cut her finger, and then she said, I had a bazillion, she literally said in court, a bazillion margaritas to make. And that's why she did it, because she was just cutting limes and stuff. And they were like, okay.
So her bad excuse is cutting herself with...
At a fake job with a fake knife.
While making fake margaritas at Margaritaville, dude.
Exactly. So then the prosecution argued that since a .25 caliber round was found near Alexander's body, and a week before that thing went missing from her grandparents' house, then it was staged. She ended up taking the stand.
She's like, my senile grandpa won't notice that I took his favorite gun.
Well, she took the stand on her own on February 4th, 2013, testifying for a total of 18 days. Dude, this was long. And, okay, when she took the stand, this is when she told the story of being, and I quote, violently abused by her parents when she was just a kid. So she really tried to make people feel bad, make the jury feel bad, and say that, okay, well, I was a kid and I was abused and it all started there.
She pulled the anime villain out, dude. She's like, when I was young, my parents were murdered. Now I'm like this. Yes.
Well, and then they said, okay, well, that doesn't explain where the rental car, like, why did you drive 100 miles away from your house to rent a car? That makes no sense when you could have driven 5 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
And then she was like, well, when I got on the budget website to order a car, they said that I could either go to the south one or the north one. And my brother, he lived in Reading, so I just went there so I could see him at the same time.
Damn, she's like, I'm gonna visit my little bro, and then I'm gonna go murder his bro.
Basically. Well, here's where things are gonna get really graphic. If they weren't already graphic enough, we're gonna talk a lot about what she said about their sexual experiences together. And this is what she used in her testimony. So
yeah.
Tune out now if you don't want to hear it. So, on her second day on the stand, this is when she tried to pull the domestic violence card.
Yes.
And say that their sex life was really intense and all that stuff. In her speech, she said that their sex life included oral sex and anal sex. And she said that the anal sex was super painful for her the first time they did it together. And that's why she just considered doing oral sex with him. And then at that point they did anal sex only because they considered it to be real sex because of his religion. So like that's what they could do. Alexander did not believe apparently that these forms of sexual activity were against Mormon rules, only if they did it vaginally. And this is like, I'm just reading directly from what...
I mean, she's obviously lying, right?
We can never know.
Or who knows?
We can never know.
Well, yeah, he's gone.
Yeah. So she said that they eventually did have vaginal sex, but way less often than they did other stuff. But then, guys, apparently they had a pretty wild phone sex life.
Oh.
And
I heard a couple of these, man. It's not that great.
It's not, but it's very much makes Travis look a little sus sometimes.
Yeah.
Because this is what they used as evidence in court. They pull out a sex tape, and I don't know, I guess she said that he told her to record it, but there's never any way to know.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, in some of the audio, he said that he wanted to zip tie her to a tree while she was dressed as Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah, and he said like some other pretty vulgar things. She testified that Travis secretly found young boys and girls sexually attractive, and she tried to help him with his urges by like helping him therapy-wise.
She's trying to slander his name at that point.
Yeah, so she's trying to make him look bad so that she can get away with murder. is literally what was happening. She then said that their relationship became like super physical and emotionally abusive, some of which caused Travis's sister to continuously roll her eyes in court, though, because imagine just sitting there and hearing about your brother and like he just got brutally murdered, and then people saying bad things about him, dude.
Oh, I know,
or
dude.
your sister, you know, anything like that.
It would hurt. It would make you mad. It'd make you want to fight someone.
Yeah. Well, and then Jodi said, and I'm going to quote this directly, that at one point Travis like shook her, you know, grabbed her by the shoulders and was just shaking her and saying like, I'm fucking sick of you. And then he began screaming at her, after which he body slammed me on the floor at the foot of his bed, is what she said. And he taunted her, saying, don't act like that hurts, before he called her a bitch and kicked her in the ribs. Afterwards, after all that, right, Jodi said that he went to kick me again. I put my hand out. Arias held up her left hand in the courtroom, and her ring finger was crooked, so she was like, that's from him. So, like, I don't know. It's
Oh, God, she played it off too. I guess she was a good artist.
She was a good liar.
I'm a good liar?
Yeah.
I mean, a good actor. I mean, that's what I meant.
Yeah, a good artist. I knew what you meant. She was a good actress, dude. So then, according to her, anyways, the whole dysfunction of what they had going had kind of reached its climax, you know, at that point, when she killed Alexander in self-defense, because apparently he became enraged following a day of sex. And then
he's like, I want more. No,
yeah. Well, apparently that's what she said. He became enraged and was like charging her, and then it forced her to fight for her life. Apparently. Why wouldn't you tell someone, though? See, like, that's where it all goes bad. If that's what really happened, she would have called the police herself and been like, oh gosh, she attacked me and I had to do this.
Yeah, there'd be records of all this. Or even her friends, you know, that one bestie would know.
Yeah. Well, at this point, though, this is the third story that she's told about how he died. So then they're just like, okay, dude, this is the third thing you've said.
They're like, hurry up, can we get this going? This is the third time you've switched it up already.
Yeah, well, and it just ruined her credibility completely, because at first she's like, no, it wasn't me. No, I haven't seen him in months. And she's like, fine, guys, how'd you know? Like, that's just what she did. And it's like, we can't trust anything you say or have ever said or will say. Like, what is wrong with you?
You dumb lying liar.
And then, dude, so in a TV interview, and this is back in September 2008, the interviewer had said, you know, they were interviewing her, and she said, no jury is going to convict me because I'm innocent. You can mark my words on that. What happened? Convicted. She also said something about how she was going to commit suicide and all this stuff. And then when they had asked her, okay, well, what are you hoping for? Because they were trying to get the death penalty, right? It's either life in prison with no possibility of parole or death penalty. She said, I hope I get the death penalty. I'd rather be dead. And then when they were actually on trial for the death penalty, she was like, I changed my mind.
I want to live.
Yeah, she's like, just give me life in prison. That's what she did, dude.
Wow. Okay, dude. Something I know that she's been doing in prison, bro. Brainwashing these security guards. And it's crazy to think that, you know, they know Jodi Arias. Everyone knows Jodi Arias. Especially in the jail she's in, and then she's over here sweet talking to them security guards, and then these guys just falling for it. Mm-hmm. She getting stuff like Mickey D's and stuff.
Yeah. No, that's what she's doing. She's manipulating them. And then she's been examined by a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists and, you know, everything. And one of them, he actually took the witness stand. His name was Richard Samuels.
Okay.
He testified and said that he diagnosed Jodi with PTSD, dissociative amnesia, and that's why it explains why she can't remember much from the day that she killed him, because she kept, like, pleading the fifth, basically, you know?
See, what I think is, in those moments where she did all that, she probably didn't have all that, but let's just say maybe a couple years later, she could have gotten all that stuff because of what she did, right?
Yeah.
It's some crazy stuff your brain does with your body, where it's just like, hey, forget about this. If not, you're gonna go into shock every time you do. It's like maybe later, but not during. She knew what she was doing.
She knew what she was doing. And she's still in trial. She swore. She said she did not remember stabbing him or cutting his throat. She didn't remember anything. But she did remember everything else. She could detail their sex life. Listen to this phone call and not say anything. It was like a circus in there, dude.
Isn't it crazy that all these people can remember everything up to a T to that day, except for one or 2 hours out of like what actually happened, and but they remember the next day and the day before.
Yeah. Well, and you think about it, right? If she had to kill him in self-defense, and I'll say here that one of the medical examiners who looked at his body, which I'll post the link to where the police report and the autopsy report is. But I will warn you guys ahead of time. They are very graphic photos. There are graphic photos of Travis Alexander's crime scene and his body and the coroner's photos and all that stuff. So if you don't want to see any of that, don't look. I will post that. But if you do look, you can see, like, if it was for self-defense, why did you stab him so many times? There's pictures of everything.
Like, even, let's just say, even if I were to have a fight with a homie, right, and I accidentally stab him, I would stab him once and be like, right, because I'd come back to life. But let's just say, at that point when she was going at him, she had already lost herself and started, completely going at it until he was gone.
The number is conflicted because there's a lot of different things, but it's between 27 and 29 stab wounds. And that includes his throat being slit. And then he had a gunshot to his head, which the medical examiner said is most likely after death. So she stabbed him all those times. She cut his carotid artery and everything. And then after he had already passed away, shot him. Which you don't do that in self-defense. That's not an accident.
Or to someone you say you love.
Exactly. And that's how you always know, though. And I said this in one of our other episodes. I don't even remember what episode it is. But you always know when it was the wife or something or the husband, because it's always so brutal. Like, it's not just like, I got robbed and I got stabbed. They stab them like 50 times.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean, dude. Like, they take their time. Simpson. They take their time to torture them, basically, before they die. So they'll know, like, I'm the one that's killing you. It's like more of a mental thing. Yeah. Yeah. It's a power thing, if you think about it, too.
Yeah. And, like, that was the same thing that we talked about in the O.J. Simpson episode. Whether it was O.J. or whoever, we've done all these episodes on, is it's not just some robbery gone wrong.
It's always the revenge and, I guess, the fulfillment they feel when they're murdering the person that they hate.
Well, and like you said earlier, is the people, her cellmate actually had come out in an interview and said that all she did was flirt with the guards and she had actually become friends with them. And so she's just still manipulating people. How is that even possible? Why are you falling asleep for no reason? We're in the middle of recording. You always do this.
Like that for a long time.
You always do this.
And that's why
Okay, let's stop.
Yeah.
Anyways, what do you guys think about this case? Because I think it's wild.
She did it.
She obviously did it, but... And if you guys have any other requests on any trials or cases we should cover, please leave them in the comments. We appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe.
And if you listen to us on Spotify, please download our episodes. We really appreciate it.
And we out.
Yeehaw, brother.